I'm gonna let you in on a secret. There are times that you totally shouldn't go to Disney World. And in this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly when that is. Hi, I'm James from Guide to WDW, and don't get me wrong, I love Disney World, and going to Disney World is by far my favorite vacation. But even as a die-hard fan, there are certain weeks of the year that make me say, yeah, no thanks. I know full well that going to Disney World is an investment, and you can invest poorly. Going during a time when it's crowded and it feels impossible to get anything done. I don't like to spend thousands of dollars to feel uncomfortable. I don't like waiting in long lines, and big crowds make me feel claustrophobic. Now, why does my favorite vacation feature so many things that make me feel miserable? That's a great question for my therapist. But the question I'm going to answer for you is, when should you avoid Disney World? In this video, I'm sharing the specific weeks when I personally refuse to go to Disney World, because of weather, because of special events, and mainly because of crowds, using historical data from thrillldata.com and my own personal experience. So you can better plan your vacation, here are what I think are the worst times to visit Disney World, listed in order from I'd rather not, to absolutely no, I'd rather dive face first with my mouth wide open into a pool filled with Beverly. The first item on this list is a bit awkward because, well, I'm part of the problem. But I'd rather avoid a new attraction opening or the start of a festival. There is a real draw to being among the first to experience a new ride or show. I was at Galaxy's Edge as early as I could go. I went on Rise of the Resistance on the first day at Disneyland. There's something really fun about being in a big crowd buzzing in anticipation for the launch of something new. But it's not really what I'd recommend for most people going on vacation. First of all, whenever Disney opens something new, there's a much higher chance of technical difficulties and breakdowns. The first guests on new rides these days are kind of beta testers. Tiana's Bayou Adventure still has a significant amount of breakdowns. Plus, it's becoming harder to get on a new ride, usually having to use the virtual queue or pay extra for Lightning Lane. And of course, there's the boost in crowds whenever Disney debuts something new, including rides, shows, fireworks, empty convention center hallways, and even the beginnings of festivals. And it's kind of my fault. Well, the fault of people like me. The online Disney economy has somewhat ruined the parks whenever there's anything vaguely new, as there's a big incentive for influencers to be among the first to experience it and make content around it. By the way, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. For example, the first weekend of every Epcot festival is just wall-to-wall people framing the perfect shot of their small plates on a trash can, and resellers walking around with a litter of Figment popcorn buckets hanging from each arm. Look, no shade to any of the creators out there. Well, a little bit of shade to the resellers, but to the creators, I get it. I've been there and I'll be there again. All of this is to say, when Disney World has something new, it's going to be more crowded, more difficult, and more annoying than if you waited even just a little bit to experience it later. If you want to be there to be one of the first to go on the new hotness, more power to you. Just know what you're getting into. Speaking of hotness, the next item on this list encompasses the longest stretch of time. In fact, it's an entire season. Number 6, the summer, mainly meaning June through September. Summer vacation and Disney World go together like Dole Whip and pineapple juice. At least it used to be that way. For the longest time, summer was the busy season at Disney World, specifically June and July. In fact, I still see people saying to this day, oh, it's always slammed in summer. But that's not exactly true anymore. Things have seriously shifted in recent years. The heights of summer have slowed down a lot. Now, it's not exactly empty, but the last two 4th of Julys have been shockingly slow for a big holiday. And June and July have gone from some of the most crowded months to middle of the year with moderate crowds. Somewhat shockingly, this year wait times were significantly down in June and July compared to the previous 2 years. And once school starts, August and September are the 2 least crowded months of the year. So crowds aren't the problem in summer. Then why is it on my list? For me, it's just too dang hot. The summer in Orlando is brutal, with both high temperatures and 200% humidity somehow. And when the crowds are lowest in August and September, the weather is the least pleasant, boiling with a chance of hurricane. Now, that's not to say I would never go during the summer. The new crowd patterns make it really tempting. And there are lots of ways to stay cool, like packing a frog tog, using a neck fan, or taking long breaks in the afternoon. But if you watch next week's video, you'll see there are other weeks during the year that have similar wait times, but much cooler conditions. And I just personally have a harder time having fun at Disney World when it's really, really hot. If I'm going to be sweating, I want to be lying on a beach or sitting by the pool, not having my back stick to the dune buggy on Haunted Mansion. Summer can be a totally fine time to go, it's just not my personal favorite. While we're on the subject of personal preference, the next item on the list is something I wish I was more into, but sadly I'm not. That's number 5. Run Disney weekends. I've only done one Run Disney race before, a Star Wars half marathon at Disneyland several years ago, and it was honestly a great experience. However, I don't really have a desire to do another Disney race. I just don't love running. My preferred workout is biking. Specifically the bikes that they had in the Wonders of Life exhibit that would simulate going through Disneyland in the mid-90s. And that attraction has been defunct for like 20 years now, so needless to say, my fitness is suffering quite a bit. But back to Run Disney. The race is a lot of fun. It's a big event. There are 4 race weekends, each actually taking 4 or 5 days. Walt Disney World Marathon in January, the Princess Half Marathon in February, the Springtime Surprise Weekend in April, and the Wine and Dine Half Marathon in late October and early November. Disney originally started the races as a way to get an attendance boost on traditionally uncrowded weekends. And well, mission accomplished, because hoo boy, they are crowded now, especially those first 2 races. The marathon in January and the Princess Half Marathon in late February now fall on some of the most crowded weeks of the year. The Springtime Surprise race is also pretty crowded, but that could also be explained by spring break, and the Wine and Dine Half Marathon in the fall is the lightest crowd-wise. My advice, if you want to do one of these races, definitely visit on one of these weekends. But like going during a new ride opening, it's kind of its own thing. If you're not interested in actually participating in the race, pick another time to go if possible to avoid the big bump in crowds, unless you're visiting during the Wine and Dine, because that week is actually pretty good. The next week used to be one of my favorite times to go. I have a lot of great memories of cool weather, really low wait times, and a traditional turkey leg dinner. I'm talking about number 4, Thanksgiving week, which legitimately was a fantastic time to go years ago. But that has completely flipped around. Since 2019, Thanksgiving has been in the top 5 for most crowded weeks. However, there are a few saving graces here that don't put it higher on the list. The holiday decorations are out. It was the most crowded week only once in the last 5 years, and generally the weeks before and after Thanksgiving are much less crowded. So if you visit on like the Wednesday of Thanksgiving and extend your trip to the next week, it's not too bad. Plus, there are signs that the crowd patterns may be improving for this week. Last year was actually pretty light for Thanksgiving. Wait times came in at an average of 41 minutes, compared to 49 minutes in 2022 and 48 minutes in 2021. Thanksgiving was the busiest week in 2021, the 5th busiest week in 2022, but didn't even make it into the top 10 in 2023, ranking 12th busiest of the year, which is still pretty crowded, but not as bad as it used to be. But for me, I now try to visit during one of the way less crowded weeks in November and December and enjoy Thanksgiving at home, being thankful that I'm getting seconds on stuffing and gravy rather than waiting an hour for Spaceship Earth. For the next item, you should make a resolution to not visit during number 3, the first week of the year. You may think that it's a clever idea to visit Disney World the first week of the year. After all, the holidays just ended, so people must be going back to work or school, and the holiday decorations are still up. So you can just swoop in right after and enjoy short lines and sweater weather. Not so fast. The first week of the year is extremely busy, and a lot of that has to do with January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, as many people who visit during Christmas still have those days off from work and school, so they're sticking around. And depending on the year, that can extend even longer. Looking at the 2025 calendar, I would expect the New Year's crowds to hang around until at least Sunday, January 5th. And then immediately after that is the Walt Disney World Marathon, which, as I covered earlier, is extremely busy. Last year, the week ending in January 8th was the 3rd busiest week of the year. This year, the week ending in January 7th is tied for first so far. Both of those weeks featured a combination of holiday stragglers and the marathon runners, resulting in long lines. Next year, the marathon is a little later, running from January 8th through 12th, so there may be a little bit of a buffer there, but just a little. Still, the first week of the year can be an awkward time to take off from work and school, and there are just better times to visit in January. The next time that I just refuse to go to Disney World is one that might surprise some people. Because like summer is the busy season, it's another one of those pieces of advice that used to be true but has totally changed. I still see people saying that February is the best month to visit Disney World, and just no, it's not. Not only is it one of the most crowded months, it features one of the most crowded holidays. Number 2, President's Day weekend and week. 7 years. That's how long you'll be waiting for Rise of the Resistance during President's Day. Look, it's not all bad. Like during Thanksgiving and the holidays, the weather is typically great on President's Day weekend. There's the Epcot Festival of the Arts, but the crowds are also insane. People flock to Disney World for the 3-day weekend. The week before and the week of President's Day were the 6th and 7th most crowded weeks over the last 5 years respectively. Making things worse, the Thursday after President's Day usually kicks off the Run Disney Princess Half Marathon weekend, so it's double packed. And guess what other holiday comes to the party sometimes? Mardi Gras, which is usually mid to late February. In certain years, it lines up on this week, and many visitors from Louisiana who get Mardi Gras off of school and work come to visit. So things can get really busy, especially during the second half of the month. And you don't even have the holiday decorations like during Thanksgiving. I cannot tell a lie, President's Day is a hard no for me. But there's one time of year that's even worse, even though some call it the most wonderful time of the year. The week between Christmas and New Year's is the worst time to visit Disney World. Look, the holidays are one of my favorite times at Disney World. The weather is perfect, the decorations are magical, but the lines make me say, bah humbug. Last year during this stretch, Avatar Flight of Passage had a jaw-dropping 330-minute line. Yes, you could watch all of Avatar and Avatar Way of Water while waiting in line for this 5-minute ride. The crowds are the worst on the week between Christmas and New Year's, which ranks number 1 in the busiest weeks of the year. But they start in full force the week leading up to Christmas, and as I mentioned earlier, they stick around past New Year's. So it's really 3 weeks of very heavy crowds, with this 1 week in particular being the peak. Adding insult to injury, this is also the most expensive time of the year to go. Flights, tickets, and hotels will all be at peak pricing. Obviously, this is a very popular time to go, and this might be the only week that works for your schedule. Remember this. You can go to Disney World when it's crowded and still have fun. I have a whole video on that, and that includes Christmas week. Our good friends Brian and Ashley took their family there last year during this week and had a great time. But personally, I don't go then just because there are other times when you can visit where you get all the same perks of Christmas week with a fraction of the crowds. If you want to know when I'm talking about, stay tuned for my next video, which is all about the best times to visit Disney World, which you can watch here if I've already posted it. This has been James from Guide to WDW. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon.